I have another point here, but I don't remember what it was. So let's keep going.
Apparently they're not even planning on paying it.
Just checking to make sure all our council people are here. So let me just quickly look at the list.
I got Lowell, Jill, Dickie.
So just while we're waiting for everybody to hitch on or log on, I just want to tell you, according to the rules, if you don't identify yourself in the meeting, you can listen and you can do whatever, but you can't participate. So if you, I don't know who 1, 2, 3, 4 is, but if you're 1, 2, 3, 4, if you want to participate, you have to acknowledge who you are. And I guess everybody else, if you're a first name and we have no idea who you are, if you do want to speak, please just say your name so we can have you on record. It has to be part of the minutes. Okay. It looks like we just missed 5:30, so I call the meeting to order. And we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could just keep your microphones on mute, it won't echo back, and I'll lead the group. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. I want to first welcome to our group tonight as our new council people, Jill Murray, Ian Huizinga, and Dickie Austin. We welcome you and to your first official meeting. So welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So I wish we were meeting in person so we could all get to know each other, but hopefully that'll happen fairly soon. Is there any amendments to the agenda? I think we have, there's a couple. I need a motion. One is to appoint somebody to the Planning Commission, and the other one is to have a executive session at the end of this meeting. Do I have someone who will make that motion?
I will make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
That was Ian for whoever's recording. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you.
Lynn, I have one more amendment. I would make a motion to amend the agenda to include a discussion relative to Armory Lane Senior Housing, Addison County Community Trust, and Evernorth.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought that was on here. Wait a minute.
That's a subordination agreement. That's a different topic.
Okay. Oh, I thought it was that. I'm sorry. Okay, that's fine. Anybody object to that? Okay.
What's
Do we, excuse me? Yeah, Ian?
what's the relevance for that?
It's a discussion regarding Addison County Community Trust, Armory Lane Housing, Senior Housing Project, and Evernorth.
They need to have their financing finalized.
That's actually a different topic.
That's different.
Oh.
So you're bringing up a totally different subject.
Okay, sorry.
The subordination agreement is relative to the other project. This is not related to that.
Okay.
Or at least
So
not.
that'd be better suited at a different time.
No, it's not directly related to that, but I'd like it discussed.
I better have a vote then. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I think we didn't get everyone. I didn't hear.
Okay, should we do a roll call?
I think we better, because I can't, I didn't, I only can see Lowell and David, Dickie and Ian. Is Jill? I can't find Jill here.
That's why we started doing Zoom
Oh, there she is. Okay.
and then YouTubing.
Okay, let's do a roll call. So, Alderman Dave Austin,
Yes.
Alderman Dickie Austin,
I'm sorry, this is a roll call vote on whether or not to amend the agenda?
yes.
Yeah, I think the agenda's full enough. Nay.
Alderman Ian Hazinga,
I echo Dickie. I think we have more than enough to pull this one out. No. Nay.
Alderwoman Jill Murray Killian,
Jill, you're on.
Jill, are you there?
Yep. I vote nay. I believe the agenda is full enough as well.
and Alderman Bertrand.
Yeah, I consider the agenda quite full right now.
So that's a nay.
So nay.
We'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
That's fine.
Okay. So do we have any visitors tonight that would like to speak to anything that's not on the agenda?
Try it.
Cheryl?
Lynn?
Yes.
I'm not quite sure if this is on the agenda, and you can correct me if it is, because I just don't see it, but it's the start of the city council meetings. Could I just mention that it would be a great idea if we could start later? The Planning Commission, Madison County Planning, Solid Waste, DRB, and other boards that I'm on all start at 7. And 5:30 means I have to take off work to attend. So my suggestion would be, if you want more input from the public, that you could maybe start the meetings a little bit later. I don't know if that's on the agenda, so I just wanted to say that.
It's not on the agenda, Cheryl, but it's going to be on the agenda when we have our last member. I want to make sure that whoever is on the board has complete say in everything that we're going to do.
Yeah, no, that's fair, Lynn.
Okay, it's going to be on the agenda, yes.
Yeah, 'cause I think I remember that it was because of specific council members that it
Right.
needed to be at 5:30. So,
Right.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else that has something they'd like to add or comment on? All right, we're going to move on.
We have, there's a hand raised by Matt White. Sorry, Mayor.
Okay, I didn't see him. Go ahead, Matt.
Thank you. I just want to mention that if you plan not to expand the agenda, you should consider discussion on the other subordination agreement possibly today, but if you consider a vote, I feel it'd be ill-advised to proceed, and that's just a recommendation. Thanks for the time.
No problem. I just want to say a couple of things before we get together. You know, our hope was we'd have a full council tonight, and we don't. And there's a few things that if everyone agrees to, and I'm skipping a little bit, but I just want to shorten the agenda a little bit by saying I don't feel comfortable doing a few things without a full council. And that is discussion of the rules of the council. I'd like to postpone until after the election. The appointment of the deputy mayor till after the election, and an appointment to the Ray Davison committee till after the election. And if that is okay with everyone and everybody understands why I'm doing that, I'd like to be able to have everyone participate. Does anybody object to changing that? No, Ian,
No.
I see Ian. I still don't see Jill, so,
Yeah, I keep turning mine off. Do you need to see me?
well, I'd like to, then I can see if, what you're doing. So if no one has any objections, I'm not going to call for a vote, but I'd like to just change those things. The other thing that I'd like to try to address quickly is the approval of all the minutes that we have that's been sent to you. This is my concern. We don't have a majority of the old regime here to approve the minutes, and I see quite a few mistakes. And I don't want to approve them without with the new council not knowing what all the minutes should say. So I would like to suggest, unless someone has an objection to this, that the minutes be posted as draft only and never approved. And in the meantime, I can correct some names that were mainly names that were incorrect. But how does the council feel about that, or want to try to vote the minutes?
Is the intention to approve the minutes at the next meeting once they've been adjusted?
Well,
I didn't know if anybody would have the, the knowledge to approve the message. Once they're approved, they become the official minutes. And since none of the old council is here to approve those minutes, I just have concerns that you might be voting on something that might be incorrect, that's all. We're talking about the minutes from July till now.
I think they should be finalized. I mean, you're never going to get that same group again, likely. So hold on, I'm on phone. So I'm a little bit leery of that.
Typically the minutes, if an elder person doesn't attend the meeting, they would abstain typically from taking a vote on those minutes. And these minutes are for July 14th, July 16th, August 4th, and August 18th, in which the majority of the council was not in attendance for. So it would just be a little unconventional for council to approve minutes that they weren't in attendance for, if that makes sense.
So the idea would be they'd be accepted as draft, not approved as minutes. I mean, I don't see, it seems like we might be able to like take the time to, because there's video documentation of all these meetings, correct? We can watch the videos. You can make the name changes that you're looking for, and we can vote on it next week.
Okay, just a minute, I'm just trying to read what somebody said. Why don't we try that and see if everybody feels they can do that and get that, all those read in the videos. I don't mind doing it that way. I was just trying to do it so that nobody feels responsible for minutes that they weren't participating in. That was all my thoughts.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that will be everybody's assignment.
I was a little bit, the July 16th minutes, did they have to be quite as narrative as they were? Could that be trimmed down to just a discussion was had? I don't know that there's a necessity to have it quite as narrative because the video does exist.
Why don't we discuss that next when we do all the rest of the minutes? Oh, I just lost you again,
Sounds
Jill.
good.
Okay.
Yep, I'm here.
All right. And did everybody have a chance to look at the warrants?
Yes.
Anybody have any questions for Daniel? They look pretty precise and clear. Anybody have questions?
Nope, she's at home. Dave Austin is with Hoffman, sitting in the back behind Daniel Hoffman.
If you have your mic on and you're speaking about anything else but the warrant, would you please turn your mic off? Thank you. If there's no questions about the to Daniel about the warrants, we will move forward. Daniel, what do you want to do about signing of the bills?
What do you mean as far as signing the warrants?
Yes,
I'll send them out for electronic signatures, the same.
okay. All right, let's move on to approval of the purchase of the new, new public works truck.
Yeah, so this is for Public Works. Jim Laro, our Public Works Supervisor, currently drives his own vehicle. He actually got in like a minor fender bender. He backed into somebody, and the insurance doesn't cover his personal vehicle. So since that happened, Public Works, they're in need of a new truck anyway, which we put aside money this year in the budget for a vehicle replacement plan. So therefore, instead of having Jim drive his own truck, I'm asking the council for approval to purchase this truck, which I'll scroll down to the invoice for it. I believe it was $48,000. But yeah, like I said, and I can show you guys if you'd like. Well, it's right here, actually. I added it in the packet. This line item, I set aside $71,000 for a vehicle replacement plan. I wasn't intending on using any of the money this year. I was going to set it aside for purchase for next year. Due to COVID, I wanted to have some flexibility in the budget just in case revenues didn't turn out the way they were going to turn out, which we've been in decent condition revenue from a revenue standpoint. So I'm asking for permission to buy this truck for Public Works with a tag price of $48,000. Do you guys have any questions?
We need a motion on the floor before there's any discussion. So
We'll make the motion.
Second.
that was Lowell and Dickey. All right, is there any discussion about this?
Daniel, the 48,000 tag, that includes the full fit up, is that correct?
Jim, are you on the line with us? I think Jim's in here. Jim's wanting to go.
Yes, I am.
Do you know the answer to that?
It's going to be, there was 3 vehicles we were hoping to get. All those 3 vehicles are now gone. So there's nothing left on the lot except for the trucks, the pickup trucks that have bells and whistles, and I'm certainly not going to do that. So we're going to have to order something. So 48,000 is going to be really close. It's probably going to come in. My estimate is, without talking to the salesman because of our municipal discount, it's probably going to come in around $35,000 for the vehicle, and then it's going to be another $13,000 to $14,000 for the plow, the lift gate, the warning lights on the pickup, and stuff like that. So it will be close to 48,000, yes, if not a little bit above.
With everything. Okay.
And what about the lettering?
The lettering, it usually costs for the emblem on both doors. I think it usually costs about $250 for those 2 emblems to be put on the doors.
Do we have any other questions from our altar people, councilmen, or any of our public who doesn't? With this up, I can't see anybody anymore. So if you're up, let us know. Then I'll call for a motion. Don't be
Didn't I already
shy.
make the motion?
Yeah,
Oh,
there's
you
already a
did.
motion.
I'm sorry.
and a
Yeah,
second.
sorry. I'm sorry. Those all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, we have a new truck. Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you all very much.
Okay, an appointment of a council member to engineer requests for qualifications of a selection team. So Daniel, you better explain to all of us what that exactly means.
So we currently have an engineer for analyzing the McDonough pump station and the treatment plant and doing a 20-year plan and a preliminary engineer report for those two items. We're going to need a lot of other services from an engineer. Two immediate services we're going to need is a long-term control plan and a stormwater investigation report of some sort. And then further, we'll need design work services. So we're contracted again for the 20-year plan, a preliminary engineer report related to McDonough investigation and the treatment plant. And we can continue with our current engineer and go into additional contracts with our current engineer. But I've been, since I've started here in January, dissatisfied with the services that we were provided, mainly just the planning of, what's to come next. We're just at the beginning of this major infrastructure project, and, the engineer has only now proposed doing a stormwater investigation and a long-term control plan when he already created a long-term control plan and has now said it's not part of his scope. So there's been some questions about what's going on, and I want to put it out for a proposal request for qualifications for people to submit their engineering firms to submit their qualification so we can analyze not only this engineer it doesn't preclude our current engineer from bidding on it, but we can look at this engineer and a host of other engineers and making an analysis on which engineer to go forward with for whatever project we need to go forward with. I'd like a team to do so. Part of that team would be a council member. So I want a council member appointed. Well, I guess appointed is the wrong word. Just a council member tasked with being part of the team of analyzing what engineers' proposals are good, bad, and this, that, and the other based on I'll put together a rubric to use, and we'll dive into looking at engineers' submissions to the request for qualifications. So I'm looking for somebody to step up and work with me and a couple others on reviewing those qualifications.
Okay, first of all, do we have anyone on the council that feels they have the experience or knowledge to help with this? I'll start with that. All right, do we have a volunteer that wants to learn? Okay, don't be overwhelmed by this.
Yeah, I'll put in.
Thank you, Dickie. I appreciate that. Is there anybody else that's willing to do it? Okay, Dickie, you're it.
Thank you, Dickie.
And if there is a new councilman that comes on at our next, after the election, that wants to join this team, I'm going to give them the opportunity to join also. Is that all right with everybody? Okay.
And also, I'll just add that the request for qualifications deadline is the next council meeting. So by that time, there's no work to be done right now until those all come in. So.
Okay. All right. So Daniel, if you remind me to put that on the agenda for just to remind whoever wins the election, if they'd like to join that, that'd be fabulous.
Yep.
Okay. We're going to have maybe a brief discussion about the municipal boundary lines with the neighboring towns. There has been some work done with that, and it was our original thoughts to try to just sit down with Ferrisburg and see if we could work out that verbally before we had surveying and a very expensive cost to the city and to Ferrisburg. And I was wondering, from my point of view, does anyone else have a way that they would like to approach this that's different than sitting down with Ferrisburg Select Board and are all, yes, go ahead, Daniel.
So where we left off on this was we had Bill Benton and Jeff Fritz assigned to a task force with myself to sit down with the municipalities. So we either have to, and what you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's where we left off, and obviously they're not part of that. They're not part of that group anymore. So we either have to reinstate that. I think we called it a task force, or go in a different direction.
Well, that's why I realize we don't have the same members. So either we're going to get 2 new members tonight, or if someone has a different view of how we could proceed. But I'd like to avoid, for obvious reasons, a very expensive survey and help us move forward in a friendly type way. So does anybody on our council have any other ideas?
What's the
I think that's
cost?
a great idea.
All right, so do we have, let's try to, again,
What?
Excuse me?
What's the cost of having it just professionally done so it's done? Out of curiosity, like what are we looking at?
So basically where we left it is, we have an area that we tax, and we have an area that is in our charter, and there's a difference there. We have to come to some sort of agreement with the neighboring municipalities and then put a survey on the books once we cut. But there's not really, it would be extremely expensive to do a survey and to have it just not be a final survey. We have to come to some sort of agreement before we take that on, and it should probably be a collaboration survey between the neighboring municipalities. And when I reached back out to Ferrisburg, and they said they're waiting for either a decision from the council how to proceed, because they asked for certain bits of information. I provided them that information, and I said that, can we come back to the table? And they said, well, the council needs to reconvene and either reappoint this task force or whatever else the council would like to do, which I'm ready to come back to the table with them.
Okay, so let me just, again, I hate putting things off, but I really want a whole council to approve these very major things that we're about to attack. I can ask for 2 people now, and then maybe ask whoever wins the election if they would like to join this. I would, I don't want to proceed without everybody having a chance to participate. So is there anyone that would like to be on this committee now?
I'll happily be on that committee now.
That's Ian. Is there anyone else?
We'll be on.
Lowell?
I would do it.
Sure.
Jill? Okay. So we have 3 that are willing to try to compromise and get this together. And I will offer the same opportunity to whoever comes on at the next meeting.
So we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting as well.
Okay. Okay, someone's not muted.
That better not be me.
Wait a minute. Why is this on tonight's agenda if you're waiting to? Because it was, we said these things would all be on the agenda tonight. And I'm not the only person. So these are on the agenda because they were promised to be on the agenda. If that answers Sue's questions. Sue, do you have anything else? Okay, I don't know if we've lost her or what. G, resolution for the VCDP grant application?
So the Boys and Girls Club is looking to apply for a CDBG grant to recoup some of their expenses from COVID. So this is basically the city supporting them in their pursuit to get a CDBG grant for COVID reimbursable expenses. This grant, CDBG grants have to be applied for by a municipality. So this would flow through the city of Vergennes. It's pretty straightforward. They have $9,300 in expenses related to COVID. That most of it they've already spent back in March and April. So this is basically just a reimbursement for that. This resolution just shows the city's support in that.
Daniel, are you going to need official signatures on this, or are you just going to send this around too for electronic?
I'll send it electronic. They should be fine with that.
Do we have a motion?
I will make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? We have a question. Whoops, I
Yeah.
was there and it's gone now. I can't see it.
There's a question. The question is, what is the expenses? Are the expenses for meals? I think in part they're for meals. I have to see if I can pull it up.
I think part of it is for the director too.
I don't have the cost estimate readily available to me. A lot of it's for PPE and yeah, I mean salaries and stuff like that. But it's all COVID related expenses.
Well, it's going to probably cover the former director, even though we don't. She's not there anymore. It will help cover the cost of the new one, I would guess.
I can make the exact cost available if somebody wants to reach out to me after the meeting.
If there's no more discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays?
Abstain.
That answers my next question. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so the resolution of the municipal planning grant.
So this is a grant that the Vergennes partnership, Rennie and myself, we applied. Rennie helped me with this grant application is for $22,000 to do an asset inventory for the city's assets for land, buildings, infrastructure. Right now, we don't meet Gatsby standards because we don't have an inventory of assets that itemizes a depreciation schedule and does a statement in that position on our annual audit. It's a big task, obviously, to go and inventory everything from buildings down to equipment. There's certain accounting standards that have to be applied. When you do asset inventory, it's not as easy as just doing assessments on things. You have to go back to purchase price and add in, any additions that were done, minus depreciation, et cetera. So there's a good amount of research that has to be done. I found a firm willing to do it, and I got a cost estimate. I was able to apply for this grant, but again, it needs a council resolution. So that's what this is for. Again, the grant's $22,000 for an asset inventory.
Do we have a motion?
I will make the motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Anyone have any discussion? Any questions? If not, all of those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstaining? Thank you very much. This might be the time to add in the appointment to the development board while Shannon's on my mind. Shannon, want to speak to that?
Hi, yes, I actually, for the planning commission, we have, we've been running with one member short for a little bit. We have somebody who's been volunteering and actually attending our meetings, even though she's not an official member. The planning commission would recommend Kimberly Trombley for a 2-year position, a 2-year appointment ending July 31st, 2022.
So
Thank you.
moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, Shannon. Okay, we're skipping I. Let's go on to the discussion regarding the Vermont Transit.
Lynn, why are we skipping I?
We had agreed to that, waiting for the new council member when we began the meeting.
That,
I wasn't aware the subordination agreement was part of that skipping.
Okay, well, let's go back to that then. No, it's not a problem. Okay, so approval of VCDB, and we did, the Evernorth, the ACCT subordination of the mortgage agreement. Daniel, would you like to take lead on that?
yeah, and I think Samantha Dunn from Evernorth is here to speak to this as well. So this is, this was a $400,000 community development block grant that passed through the city for the project, one of the projects over on Armory Lane. It passed through the city in 2019, and yeah, so they're looking to have this subordination agreement signed. They've said that Evernorth and the Addison County Community Trust they've said that this is delaying the project and therefore costing them money in not signing this agreement. I expressed some concern because the city attorney never looked at the documents from 2019. And I really wanted him to look at this before I signed it, which he did, and he issued an opinion, which I sent to the council. So now the last step, since the council approved the grant back in 2019, the council should approve this subordination agreement.
A motion to approve?
I second.
Any other discussion?
I think it's worth noting that the original document that we were provided contained some language that was adverse to the city's interest, but that has been removed, is my understanding. It is concerning to me that this original document did not receive a review by our council prior to being executed. And it's also concerning that our city manager was pressured to sign a document without council approval. And it's also concerning that we haven't seen any financials with regard to this project or the other project, which is a $660,000 loan.
So, but we're not talking about the other project.
Well, I am.
Well, that's going to be on next month's, or not next month, but our next meeting.
That's understood.
Okay. So I apologize. I didn't realize this was different than everything else going on here. So it was an add-on, and I apologize for missing that. And
So if the city attorney has already given the green light, then you should have been good to go to sign this.
yeah, I'm just asking for a motion to accept it and second, and then we're going to vote on it, and then there's no
I'll make a
question.
motion to accept it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already been motioned.
Yeah. So
Second.
Yeah, I was
I'm
second.
just waiting for the discussion. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I'll abstain.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Lynn, did you see the offer to see the housing, the financials, if anybody would like to? Those have been put on the table.
We've asked for them, so if that would be great if he'd send it to, or they would send it to,
Well- Okay.
okay, I don't know what JFC means, so if somebody would explain that to me. I'd like to answer these questions, but I don't know what that means.
Why do we have to get answer questions? I think we can't state their question.
Okay. If nobody wants to explain it to me, it must mean something bad, so we'll move on. Discussion regarding the sidewalk grant.
So
Daniel, again?
there's a sidewalk grant that the city received in 2019 for $250,000 with a 20% match to install a sidewalk from the Bixby Library, on the Bixby Library side of the street, from the Bixby Library down to the Stairway of Heaven. I found a lot of concerning items with the sidewalk grant. One of the biggest issues is I found that the cost estimate should have been $150,000 when the sidewalk grant was applied for, and it was put in for $250,000, which has a direct relationship to the engineering and the administrative costs affiliated with the sidewalk grant. This sidewalk, these types of grants, we had a grant like this before. It was only a 10% match. Now it's a 20% match. And there's a whole host of issues. The foundation for which the sidewalk grant was applied for, this 2007 study, lists things like install a retaining wall and other items, that there's no infrastructure under the ground, and now there's gas lines, other things that weren't really, weren't seen in 2007. The 2007 study for which this is based off of is not relevant anymore. So there's a lot of concerns with this grant, and not to mention, I got a cost estimate to install the sidewalk ourselves in-house for $21,000. It doesn't install a green belt in front of Caldwell Bankers like this grant would. However, it gets the job done. It installs the sidewalk for a fraction of the cost of our 20% match. So I have a $21,000 cost estimate. This sidewalk grant was applied for $250,000. And so there's a lot of concerns with this that the council, I'm sure, is well aware of.
Daniel, is there any
you said that was going to
possibility?
cost 40,000.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Need a motion.
Wait, just one second. I have a quick question.
There needs to be a motion before we discuss it.
Do we have a motion to accept this grant?
I believe the grant's already been accepted and the project's underway.
Well, was my question. So I'm going to go back and ask my question. Yes, and if there was a mistake in the numbers and it's supposed to be 150, not 250, can that be corrected before we continue on this discussion?
No, it has to be corrected in a new grant application, if anything, which could happen. I mean, you could reapply. And also the admin and engineering costs, I was told by the state, is that are going to be high, whether you have 100 feet of sidewalk or 2,000 feet of sidewalk. This is for 400 feet of sidewalk. So it would be advantageous to reapply for this grant for something that made more sense for the indirect costs.
And then I would motion that we invite the people who put this project together to present to the city council at the next meeting. And in the meantime, have Daniel working with maybe Jim Lara from Public Works, get an apples to apples comparison of doing the project, including the green belt, so we can see an actual like direct comparison between the two projects, doing it in-house versus continuing with the grant.
Sure.
Yeah, this is only a discussion, so if we don't need a motion to do that, Dickie, well, why don't we just do it? Okay?
I think that's a good.
Yeah, okay. All right, we will move on. Discussion regarding the Citizens Review Board Exploratory Committee status and report. I don't know who's going to make that report to us, but
So I don't know if anyone's here from this Citizen Review Board Exploratory
that's what
Committee.
I was looking, but I don't see.
However, it should be a council decision on how to move forward, because they were given a time frame of submitting their report by August 14th, which could not be extended because of a lack of a quorum on the council. So now that we have a quorum on the council, in their report, I believe they asked for more time to do more of a study. So that should at least.
Yeah, in reading the report here, it does seem that they asked for more time. There wasn't a quorum. Now that there is, I guess I would move that we allow them to have more time, reinstate the size of their group back up to 8 people, and have more direct involvement in the request for proposal for the equity study from the committee.
I second.
And there's a question, there's a hand raised from, I believe, one of the members, Alicia Grandjean.
Hi. So couple things. Thank you for that comment. But my question is the RFP and being put out as a race equity concern versus police oversight commission piece. I'm not sure how the city of Vergennes got to that disposition to put that out. It's kind of misleading.
So are you asking for the RFP to wait till we have that discussion? Is that what you're asking, Alicia?
What I actually went to the city hall to discuss with Matt as well as David, as with Rose, was the fact that the RFP was put out as a race equity study and not what we came to as a conclusion prior to putting our paperwork together. So it skipped a step somewhere and was presented as a race equity study.
Okay, why don't we try to step back one step? First of all, let's, how many were left on your committee in the end, Alicia? I don't think there was 8, was there?
There was not 8, but we still had enough for a quorum.
Right, but how many? So if people are interested in getting on this committee up to 8, this would be a great time to ask people to do that.
Yes, we need, I believe it was 4 more members, 3 or 4 more members in that committee.
So Dickie, with your suggestion that we give them more time, how much time would you like to give them?
I mean, I think the longer we take, the less gets done. I would love to see that committee report at the second meeting in November, with details for the request for proposal for the study, whether it be specific to race equity or just citizen advisory. I think the city council put their faith in the committee to do this work. It seems reasonable to let them finish. And the proposals we've received up to this point, we can reach out to the folks that have sent proposals and the 2 that we've received with the updated request of what we're actually looking to have done based on the committee's advice, and allow them to resubmit their proposals.
Okay. So I'm also going to give the opportunity for everyone that's listening to send your names to either Daniel or myself if you're interested in the 4 positions on the committee. And hopefully, Alicia, are you kind of running it now, or who was running it when you got
Brian
done?
Gakowski is listed as the chair.
Yeah, but was he doing it, actually doing it, or were you? Or was Brett?
No, it was actually Brian that was doing the meetings, and us all as support with Brian.
Okay, great. That's just like I wanted to confirm.
Niall has his hand raised.
Yes, Niall.
Niall. Yes, my very quick point. Brian Gakowski also, I believe, during the period where there had been a couple of resignations already from the committee, I do understand that he was reached out to by others as well who are interested in. So basically my point is just check in with him as well, because he's not. I don't think he's at this meeting, but I think he heard of some interest, of a lot of interest in joining the committee after some of those resignations.
No problem. That's not a problem. I just would like it all directed to Daniel or myself until we have a chance to talk to Brian.
I can reach out to Brian.
Okay. If that's okay with the council, proceeding this way, I don't think we need to have a vote unless if someone thinks it's necessary, but I think we have what we're going to do in the direction for the second meeting in November to have a complete report. And let's put until Monday morning for anybody interested in being on this group as the deadline, so we can keep going forward. Is there any other discussion? Yes, Alicia.
I just had a question in regards to the RFP, because there is some very, very specific language in that RFP. If any of that was going to be changed based off the conversation, and I'm referring this to specifically David and our city manager.
I'd be comfortable. I think what we're talking about, Alicia, is asking for input from the exploratory committee. And I'd just like to point out, I mean, my position is that the committee has existed all along, and has never ceased to exist. And so as far as the specific language in there, I think at this point, you know, I am certainly comfortable in passing that ball to the committee and acting on your recommendations relative to the language and the scope or anything else.
Oh, well, I guess the piece that I'm looking at is it's been about 6 weeks since I've made that complaint to City Hall, and not one piece has been changed. And yet it sits out there for people to put in their requests for proposals to something that has the major issues in it. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. I think we need to get a full committee, just like we needed to get a full council, and try to move forward in a positive way. And if there's, you know, if we have 4 other people that would like to join it that's been following this, it would be great. And I think that just adds a little more dimension to the committee. And I want to say, my husband was on it, and he felt this committee did a fabulous job, and he really enjoyed it. So I think it's a committee that if you're really interested in, you could enjoy the conversation and help change Vergennes. So hopefully people will want to join us, and I thank all the committee that worked so hard on it. And we're still, as far as I'm concerned, you're still a committee. So if anyone is going to get off that committee, I'd like to know, though.
This is not to wrap it around.
Excuse me? I don't know who's talking.
David Small has his hand raised.
Okay.
Thank you, Daniel. Just for clarification, so would people be submitting to potentially, for consideration to the council, to be on the exploratory committee, and then the vote on that would happen at the next meeting? I'm just trying to get a sense of procedure.
Yeah, I would think that's
think
what
that
we would
sounds
have to do. Yeah, I think so.
So the committee would only be full. I'm just thinking about timing, right? So that I'm just thinking about when you have a full committee versus when you'd like your extension of your report done, and maybe whether it's worth asking the current members who are here if they feel that would be enough time.
Well, they can always come back and ask for an extension. But I agree with Dickie. If you don't put something sort of in a box, it keeps going on and over, and there's no end. And I don't want that to happen. I want this to get resolved as soon as possible. And I think we're pretty flexible. If they need more time, we can give them more time.
Great, thank you for clarifying.
How often were the meetings happening?
Excuse me?
How often were the meetings happening?
Yeah, Alicia, I know there was a schedule. I forgot what it was.
The meetings were scheduled once a week, and then they just have to be announced through this type of, public chain.
Do you feel that that's a fair amount of time for you guys to formulate an opinion?
It's all going to depend on who is going to be back on the committee, as well as if we can get a quorum. And probably not, but at the same time, getting back to work on this is a priority that I'm ready to take on and, start working towards a resolution.
Maybe first week in December, possibly?
That would probably be more reasonable.
I would agree with that as well. I don't want you to feel that you're under a time crunch. I mean, I think that that's entirely reasonable first week in December.
Is that okay with you?
The other major piece to that is the survey.
Yeah, and I think that's why you need the additional time.
Right.
It sounds like it's okay with Dickie, so let's just change the date to December. Any objections to that?
There's a hand raised, Neil.
I'm just gonna unraise my hand. I was hoping that I would move to December as well. I think that makes sense. While we're on the topic, I guess it will also be influenced by the relationship to the race equity assessment RFP. I'm not clear of the relationship between the CRBC and that, or I would actually love to learn a little bit. I know it's an other agenda item, so I've been waiting, but I'm really curious to learn a little bit more about the origin of the race equity assessment RFP and how that relates to the work of the CRBC, because in none of our recommendations or in our preliminary report do we actually talk about race. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Let's move on to that, and then maybe we can answer some questions.
Can I just add one more thing about the Citizen Review Board Exploratory Committee? If we could get, if there could be someone with a law background added to the committee, that would be fantastic, because there's a couple pertinent legal questions. It would be incredibly valuable to have maybe a lawyer on the committee of some sort answer those questions. I just want to add that.
I do see the question about whether the 4 members will be appointed by the mayor, and that will not happen. What I'd like to do is get the people that are interested, give it to the committee and let them go through the list too. I'll probably make some recommendations, but I'm not going to appoint anyone without the whole committee having their say in it too. Okay, let's move on to,
Oh, there's a hand raised. Matt White.
hey, Matt.
I just want to confirm, so you're going to have the committee self-appoint additional members? Is that the intent, Lynn?
Well, I want to see, first of all, who the 4 people are, who, how many? I mean, it might be 3. I have no idea. I will certainly make recommendations, but I want the committee to be working together. I don't want any conflicts. I want people to get along, and sometimes personalities are better than other personalities, and this committee's worked hard. They've done a really good job. And if there tends to be 12 or 10 or some other way, I may change the way I do this. But right now, let me see how many are going to apply, and hopefully I can just let the committee say, here are 4 people that really want to be on the committee. And if you have any objections, let me know. But you know,
I will suggest that robust debate and antagonistic, respectful challenging of ideas does produce a better product than having people who happen to be aligned along certain lines and have problems with challenging ideas. So I think that just goes without saying, and I'll end my comment on that, but it seems like the process of appointing more people to this committee should seek out people with the most varied and diverse ideas on the subject as can be found, including you know, people who find that this committee may or may not need to exist at all. That's my comment. Thank you.
thank you. I'll take that into thoughts, Matt. I appreciate it.
Lynn, I'll make a suggestion, and my suggestion would be, just so that it's clear to everybody, I mean, why don't we just handle it like we handle appointments to the Planning Commission, the DRB, and that really takes, it takes the personalities out of the equation. You know, it just comes before the council and we vote on it.
That's fine too. Let's hope we got the names in by next Monday.
I know.
Excuse me? Okay, guys, mute if you're not in the meeting. Okay, we're gonna move on, please, to the race equity assessment. And perhaps we need to just table that for now until the committee gets back together.
I would like to hear the origin of that request for proposal.
Yeah, yeah, I can kind of explain why I put that out. I mean, so there was a report that was put out by the Citizen Review Board Exploratory Committee. It recommended in part a survey, and there's a you know, there's a lot of there is press out there, the Daily Beast and those types of things that kind of, you know, I reached out to consultants, and they recommended the first step is doing a survey and doing an assessment. So I took the advice of professional consultants. This is the first step towards doing any kind of education or training throughout the city for police and for the community. So that's all that was. There wasn't any ill intention there. But now it seems like with the Citizen Review Board Exploratory Committee coming back, I mean, we can circle back to the table. I only got 2 bids for this anyway, and maybe you know, they can help make the RFP, if an RFP is needed, more robust, and we can put it back out to bid.
Any other questions about this? And I apologize for the first dog. She was excited that the council meeting is actually happening.
Matt White has his hand raised.
Yes, so Daniel, it seems to me that the issue of the Police Exploratory Committee and the Race Equity Study are becoming conflated, even with people who follow this and people on the committee. Can you differentiate where the separations are there for us all? So what I'm saying is the equity study, is that part of the police exploratory committee? Or is it a separate city
Yeah.
manager function
No,
of preparing information?
the equity study would interview all city employees, including all police. It would interview the community. It would analyze multiple aspects and make an assessment on what is needed going forward, including but not limited to training or education.
So if you choose to proceed with that, it is a separate issue that you're doing to prepare information for both the committee and the city council, so that the information is available to them as they proceed. And this report comes out now, hopefully first week of December. The Police Exploratory Committee is a separate organization that is now being made up with existing and new members coming in. Now that we're going to have an appointment process, that will be a separate issue to the race equity study, correct?
Yes and no. I mean, part of it, I mean, there's a lot there, in the RFP, there's different services. Part of it is, again, interviewing the police, and part of it's interviewing the community, and part of, there may be different trainings or different mechanisms or, different things from that are recommended for the police, for the community, etc.
I guess what I'm asking is you're gathering this information through an RFP, or is this part of the process of the select committee for police exploratory? I'm not sure where it's originating and where the delineations are.
It's a little, I guess it's a little of both. It's part of, the exploratory committee recommended a survey, and the consultants recommended to me when I reached out that you do an assessment. And the survey is part of that.
Okay, so I understand it this way now. So the exploratory committee came up with, okay, our first step would need to be an assessment. You said, okay, I'll take care of that. Let me find out what it takes. You said an RFP is the process, put that out, and you're doing that for the committee and the city council, but you're administering it.
I create, yes. Yeah, I'm not administering really anything. I'm just advertising it, but yeah.
Okay, I don't want to take any more time, everybody. I hope that helped the rest of the crowd, because I was a little confused on that, but now I understand. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Matt.
There's more hands raised. Dave Small.
Thank you, Daniel. Yeah, I think I similar question, I guess. A exploratory committee looking into the idea of some sort of review board, advisory board, whatever it's going to be called, and the creation of an RFP seem like very different tasks. And it seems to me that if the city council would like to put together and discuss an RFP for a race and equity assessment, that's a topic that the city council can bring up and talk about funding and all of that. But it doesn't seem to me something that you should be putting, or not you, but we as citizens and the city council should be putting on this exploratory committee who have a very different ask in front of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Alicia Grandin.
Thank you to Matt and thank you, David, for your comments, because that is exactly the question that I walked in and asked back in August. I asked the question of how we got to this point, and it was talked about, and it was told that it was going to be changed so that it made sense, because it currently doesn't make sense for it to be an RFP on race assessment. And very clearly was told during that time frame that this is what the commission came up with based off what I sat on, and that was incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. Any other hands up that I can't see?
Yeah, Zoe Caslow.
Hi, folks. This is going back just a little bit, and I apologize. It takes my brain a second to catch up. So Monday is when you want folks to submit their names to join the Civilian Review Board Exploratory Committee. How will you be advertising that? Will that be on Front Porch Forum and the website? How will you get the word out that you're accepting new folks to the committee? Thanks.
Well, hopefully people know it tonight. I don't see a number on here, but I can do it on Front Porch Forum, and we can also do it on the city website.
Yeah, similar to how I advertise positions for like the DRV and stuff. I'll do that.
Good. Any other hands that I might not see?
No, that's it.
Thank you, everybody, for your discussion. We are going to move on to the assessor services.
So we had a contract with Nimerick for assessment services. The contract ran out, so I put out an RFP for assessment services, looking for somebody for an hourly rate, and I did not receive a bid. So I am probably going to reach out to vendors and put it back out to bid.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion or questions from the council on that? Okay. Okay, this one's an interesting one. We have had many, many, many complaints about the roosters in town. And I'm blessed to have a couple of them right in my neighborhood. And I do understand that they are loud and they start very early, sometimes before the sun rises. So I don't know if we want to get into a major discussion about this tonight, but I do want to say I'd like to have some people that would be willing, some of the public and maybe some council members, to just form a committee to make a recommendation to the council on how they feel about roosters in town and some language that we might add as an ordinance to the town. I mean, it's not 5 people complaining, it's dozens of people complaining. So I'd like to, again, if anybody's interested in that position, if there's anybody on the council right now that I would ask that would be willing to chair this committee to put together some language about roosters, I'd appreciate a volunteer or two, and then we can.
I'll do that. I was actually the guy many years ago that managed to get the city plan and the zoning regulations amended to allow chickens. So I guess I ought to do that.
Well, chickens aren't roosters.
Well, understood. I understand. I'm just volunteering to do it.
All right. Is there anybody else on the council that might want to join this little group?
I would love nothing more than to be on the rooster committee.
There you go. Thanks, Jill. And why don't the two of you find a couple of citizens that maybe has a rooster and maybe somebody that doesn't have a rooster. Yep. So you have some input from the city.
Lynn, I would just ask, based on other concerns, because if we don't address this, I'm going to hear about it tomorrow morning, that, you know, roosters and chickens, and I think that there's a way to manage this to make everybody happy. So I'd like it to include roosters and chickens.
Got it. So you two are at task, and if you please ask some people, citizens, to join you, that would be great. And if you could, you know, begin to report back at the first meeting in November, that would be great.
I think we can get it done. I don't think it's that complicated to come up with something that works.
Okay. So out there, if you have a rooster and you want to defend it, you better call David and Jill.
I think the one last thing that I would add to that is this, is that roosters are in terms of how they're dealt with now. I mean, it's really no different than a barking dog, you know, and there's a mechanism to handle it in the same way, and it's contained in our noise ordinance. And so we'll write something up specific to roosters, chickens so that they're not a nuisance. And hopefully everybody will be happy.
Thank you. And guys, if you don't have a nice comment to make, just hold it to yourselves tonight, okay? Next, discussion on the lease law.
So there's been calls to have leashes required in our city parks. It's currently not in our ordinance. I just wanted to feel out the room on that.
Are our city parks excluded from the leash ordinance elsewise?
No, it's just not talked about. Dogs can be. I believe the ordinance says that dogs can be off a leash if they're well behaved or something.
Under control of their owner. Like the liability from that seems pretty clear. If they're not under the control of the owner, become an issue. The liability is on the owner. I think that what seems to be a reasonable solution to wanting dogs off leash in the city park would be to work with the folks in recreation and see about getting a community group started to maybe like spearhead fundraising to come up with a dog park plan.
Yeah, Kim's been working on it. Kim tried to get a grant last May, and it was shut down because of COVID. So that's something that we're gonna get eventually. But there's been I've had numerous complaints about this, so I just want to talk about it.
It seems like then maybe pushing like then if it's going to happen in a park, I think working with the recreation department makes sense. And like what I saw happen, or it seemed to happen anyway, in Middlebury and Shelburne, where essentially community groups started, got out, did the fundraising, and the town basically just had to say, hey, you can use the space. That seems like if there's a community group formed versus, or in addition to looking for a grant to get going, I think that's something as a city council, I think we could easily endorse the idea of these people, of people coming together to create a safe space for dogs to be off leash. In the meantime, in an open park, like the leash ordinance seems pretty clear that the dog has to be under your control. If they're a nuisance to other people in the park or causing issue, they're not under control of the owner. Like the ordinance seems relatively clear to me.
The only thing I'll add is poop bags would be nice. Also,
absolutely.
Pick up after your pet. Is there any other discussion on the leash law?
I think the issue really is it's nebulous. I think that the way that it's worded is too nebulous. I know what under control means. What under control means to me might mean something different to someone else. I don't really know. I think that if it's an issue, which I'm led to believe that it is, along with people failing to pick up after their pets, I think you make it clear and you say that they need to be on a leash. They're either on a leash or they're off a leash. I think that, you get into gray areas, and I don't think gray areas work very well.
I think it's similar in subject matter to the rooster issue, noise and nuisance.
The other thing is on the main city park, where there's now tables and we're eating outside. It almost needs, if you're not using a leash in this main city park, I understand down by the basin, everybody lets their dogs loose there, but there's plenty of place to run and you're not interrupting someone's meal or, so I think it might not be the same for every park that we have.
I think the Basin Park is an ideal location to put in a dog park for the city.
I know, Kim's working on that. Is there any other comments or hands raised?
I think, the one thing that I would point out is that the dogs off leash is fundamentally different than roosters, because most people don't bring their roosters out in the public realm. Roosters hopefully tend to stay on the individual's property, so that's fundamentally different.
I would agree with you, but have you ever been chased by a rooster? I have.
I have. That's why when we write it, we want to write it so that they stay on the individual's property.
Right. Large birds do not like me.
Exactly. Yeah, I've been chased too.
Okay, let's try to move on. This is such a riveting conversation.
It really is.
It is. The appointment of Amy, I hope this is the right, Yin, and the reappointment of Jason Mullen to the Development and Review Board. I'm sorry, Amy, if I said your name wrong. Do we have a motion?
So
I'll make the motion. Second?
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays or abstentions? Okay, great. We have a new additions here. I'd like to discuss in-person council meetings with, now that we have new members, how you feel about it. Zoom meetings are great if you're, trying to get the largest audience. It doesn't mean that we can't do a combination of Zoom, but it also doesn't let us get to know each other and find out how we can work together. So I'd like to have each one of you, one at a time, tell me your ideas about in-person council meetings. And I'm going to start with you, Lowell.
I'm in favor of them. I really don't have any thoughts. Probably try to get up the Opera House or something, give us a little more space, but yeah, I'm in favor of it.
David Austin?
I'm in favor of it as well. I would also, obviously, I think that we would need to continue with the access via Zoom for people that don't feel comfortable. I think that, and I have heard from people that they're disenfranchised because they either do not have a computer or do not understand the technology. Or in my case, I cannot run Zoom from my house because of security issues with the platform. So, which is why I'm either at your house or City Hall. So, I think that as long as we're spread out, I think it's a good idea. And I also would point out that I don't think it's particularly helpful to have people, posting comments during the meeting and expecting to have those comments read. And if you have something to say, just say it.
Okay, Jill.
I think that in-person is important. I agree with you, Lynn, that we need to establish relationships in order to work better together or work together. I also agree with you, David, that the comments aren't necessarily helpful. But I do like the hybrid format of allowing the Zoom and having some sort of in-person. So I would be fine with it. We got to follow the current COVID restrictions, though, of course, or regulations.
Dickie?
Yeah, kind of echoing all of that. I think I have no problem with in-person meetings as long as they're done according to the COVID recommendations. I think having a space to spread out, like maintain 6-foot distance, maintain masks, including anyone that's in the audience. I think that does create a limit for the amount of people that will be able to attend based on the space that we're having it. So finding a space that's reasonable and then keeping an eye on restrictions and movements as they go. I think if we see an uptick in cases in Vergennes or Addison County at large, we need to revisit it. I think the hybrid model is essential. I think I hesitate to call it an upside to a pandemic, but the level of public involvement and engagement, because of the ease of being able to do it at home and dial in via Zoom, the attendance is higher than it usually is. So I think encouraging that making that reasonable. And that would require then a technology aspect that we'd have to make sure we can accommodate, whether it's a large screen there to be able to put up some type of like physical show of the Zoom aspect to those of us that are there in person. And then also making sure that we're set up to represent and show who's speaking and to what end to folks that have like logged in from home. I don't think those are boundaries that aren't able to be overcome. But I think switching to an in-person meeting I have no problem with it as long as it doesn't mean then folks that have been able to attend because of the online function are not then put out. But again, I think that's able to be accommodated and is worth the effort.
Thank you. And Ian. Is Ian still here?
Forgot I muted myself. I would like us to come up with a plan on how we're going to combine the aspects that we currently have with what we'd like to have moving forward. I mean, I'm open to it, but there definitely needs to be some type of plan. The COVID restrictions obviously need to be in place. I would like to chat one-on-one with people more so than we are. But I think we definitely need a plan before we start moving this forward at any fast pace.
Okay, so here's my thoughts about it. And I do see the comments from Tim's wife, Kate. And I understand it. And I have been watching the numbers a little bit. Oh, sorry, Daniel. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, so we kind of looked into this back in June about having an in-person meeting, and I reached out to the town of St. Johnsbury because they had successful in-person meetings in the height of the COVID pandemic. The town manager gave me a lot of pointers for how to do it, including temperature checks, contact tracing, et cetera, et cetera. It would be difficult for myself to put together, but I could find the tools to make it happen. I just want to add that.
Okay. So here are my thoughts. And again, it's these are only thoughts. There's, we need to find our other council meeting person first. But I thought that if we could meet in person as a council with all the COVID rules, and if the public was willing to stay on Zoom and they become part of the meeting through Zoom, but I've been thinking that we'd wait until the beginning of December to make sure that the numbers are going up in Vermont. I'm a little concerned about that. So we need to watch that for a little bit. But if we're in general thinking that we're moving in that direction, I just want people to think about it. And then we can make a decision after our seventh member is joining us, and everybody has time to think about how they'd like to do it. And if any one of the council would like to email me their thoughts, we'll try to put something together that works for everyone.
If I may, one other comment. I think that we need to be careful to respect the comfort levels of everybody involved, including the council members. So if there is somebody on the council that feels uncomfortable being in person, maybe we can figure out a hybrid that would accommodate that as well.
Well, they could join us on Zoom. I don't have any problem with doing that. I mean, as long as I don't want anybody to feel that they're in a jeopardized position. That's not the intent here. But
no, I get you.
Yeah, I just feel that, until we get to know each other, it's hard when you're doing it this way. So anyway. So just,
if I can just jump in, and Stacy Raphael brought it up in the chat room as well, but we all received an email from Jory Raphael as far as the way that we do the Zoom meetings, with the idea of adopting a webinar, which allows the visual aspect of it to be a little bit more standard to how a city council meeting would look, where the councilors and the city manager would essentially be the panelists, with the ability to upgrade anyone who wants to speak to active. I think exploring that makes absolute sense. There is a cost associated with it versus the free Zoom, but as far as just the general organization, having watched a lot of these meetings on YouTube, it gets confusing to see like all the little boxes, who's speaking and when. So I think adjusting to the webinar function, I think it's worth the cost. That also does bring up another point. I don't want to go too far off topic, but I think it's important. I think the city of Vergennes needs to establish I think we should establish our own YouTube channel, so we don't have to post everything on Daniel's personal page, on YouTube, his personal account to be hosted. That's not uncommon for other municipalities to have their own setup. So just be City of Vergennes versus Daniel Hoffman when you look to see who's posting the YouTube videos. It makes it easier to search. They're certainly easier to find as far as all of that stuff that goes through. So I think adopting the webinar piece, it looked like based on the attendance that we've been getting, we would need to go to like the mid-range level, which is right around $1,400 a year. That seems to be a reasonable cost to me for the level of public expense or public interaction and engagement. And the likelihood that COVID's going to go away anytime soon, I don't think anyone thinks that we're going to be free of this in any short amount of time. But then ultimately, like when there is a scenario where COVID's not a concern, I think maintaining digital inclusion for city council meetings allows people to attend that wouldn't otherwise do that. Which then, like, again, getting even further off topic, that does bring up the previous comment about the timing of the meetings. I do think it makes sense to look at moving the time that we meet, and I know you want to wait until the seventh member is there, but adjusting it so that the maximum amount of people can be a part of all city functions really, but city council meetings specifically. I think encouraging that level of engagement is really important, and moving it to a time to give people the ability who work a 9-to-5 kind of standard day to be able to get home, unpack, like kind of re-engage into their home situation before logging in. I know I work nights, so I have to make my own accommodations. But I also knew that going into this when running for office. But I think making some accommodation for that sooner than later makes a lot of sense, combined with the webinar, combined with the hybrid idea of in-person meetings.
Yeah, we all got the email from Jory, and I'm sorry to say I haven't touched base with him, but I wanted to get all the details from him and how it would be set up. I've never done one of those. I've always done Zooms or some other kind of meeting, never one that's as a webinar. So let me follow up with Jory, and maybe he could call me at his convenience, and I can just go through it with Daniel, and we can try to set that up so we do it sooner than later.
Lynn, I've done webinar type things in a past employment position, and it's a little clunky at first before you get used to it, and then it's fine. So I think it's a good suggestion.
Okay, great. So we need somebody who knows how to do this. Probably Daniel does, but it's not something I've been available to me before. So unless somebody else has any comments, I'd like to try to move on.
Can I make one?
Sure.
Just about in-person meetings, just another aspect to keep in mind, and I think it was brought up by Lowell earlier, that keep in mind that you need a really big space, and the ventilation is important, the duration of the meetings important. So for in-person, just other things to consider and keep in mind. That's all.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Lynn, I had my hand raised, sorry. I I was at a board meeting recently where it was a hybrid in person and Zoom, and it was super clunky. And I don't think it means it's not possible, but I would just encourage us to have a really thoughtful conversation around how if there's full city council there and a few folks and folks on the phone, like, can we set up multiple screens or cameras just so that everyone can be as engaged as possible? It's certainly doable, and it's a new, COVID problem, but I just wanted to raise that because the board meeting that I went to was super clunky when we did both.
Yeah, thanks, Zoe. I think that COVID life is clunky as a general rule, and that we're all kind of learning as we go. And Cheryl, I think your point is a good one, that we need to have a large enough space. I mean, I think that there's quite a few large spaces in this city that we could take advantage of. And until it's really super cold out, I mean, we're all hardy Vermonters. Why can't we just do it outside for a little while? I mean, I think that there's room to make adjustments and to figure it out. So, but to Vicky's point and to other people's points, I do like the idea of the hybrid model because it does make this meeting a lot more accessible to folks that normally wouldn't go. And then if there's other people that have mobility issues that couldn't get to a regular meeting, I think it's also a really great option.
Well, I did have an outside meeting with the pool committee or the recreation committee in a thunderstorm in the rain, and it was like 50 degrees. And I think Kim can, and all the rec committee can say, it was uncomfortable. So let's try to figure something out so we don't have to shiver outside, but there's got to be a place that we can meet. And the Opera House is huge and we can set it up. And, maybe we start with just council in presence and then everybody else. I'm just thinking out loud. But so if anybody has any ideas, I'd be happy to listen to them, and you can email me and let me know.
And it might be a good idea to tap into some of the resources at the elementary or high school, because they seem to be doing a fantastic job of having in-person instruction in the schools. I mean, I've been really impressed with the organization down at the elementary school when I dropped my son off, and have actually praised Matt DeBloy on the ability that they've had in making it calm, cool, and collected for the littlest people in our community. So might be a good opportunity for us to tap into that a little bit.
Sounds good. Okay, unless there's some more discussion, I would like to try to move on to the payment in lieu of health insurance policy. And again, if no one objects, I'd like to wait till we have our final person on the council, because this is a big item that could cost the city a lot of money. It could be something that's neutral. I don't know at this point, but it is a money issue. So if anyone on the present council doesn't object, I'd like to move that to our next meeting. Any objections?
Okay. I guess my question would be, if moving it to the next meeting, like, do we have city employees that are depending on a decision on this? Like,
No,
are we leaving them on the hook in the meantime?
No.
No.
Okay.
I guess I can wait to explain it at the next meeting if you want.
Do you want to do it now, Daniel?
I could just, I mean, we could wait till the next meeting, but basically it's paying employees to opt out of health insurance if they can get health insurance through, a significant other or parent or something. So it will save the city a lot of money.
Why does that need to be tabled until?
Well, I'm trying to include as many people on the council. It doesn't have to be. I'm just suggesting that
is there an open enrollment period or any kind of closure to any kind of health insurance options that people would have to sign up for a decline in the meantime? Is their window getting?
That's a good point. I think open enrollment's coming up in November.
All right. So if open enrollment is coming up in November and we're going to wait until the next meeting, what's the date of the next meeting?
The 27th.
7?
It doesn't give, that doesn't give people a whole lot of time to make their decisions if they have to have family discussions. I'm just thinking about what the ramifications would be for me personally.
Okay, well then let's have the discussion. I would like to have a motion to have a payment in lieu of health insurance policy first on the floor.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Daniel, why don't you make a little better,
Yes, so, yeah, let me get to it here. So basically, what I would like to do is pay employees $2 an hour if they opt out of getting health insurance, because and they would have to fill out this form saying that they have health insurance elsewhere. Health insurance for a single coverage costs the city about $11,000. Up to a family plan is about $28,000 a year. So paying an employee $2 more an hour it would equate to around $4,000. It would save the city all around a lot of money by paying employees if they can find insurance elsewhere to opt out of health insurance with the city. The city has the Platinum Health Insurance, Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance plan, and it's expensive. So it's pretty straightforward. City employees would.
just 1 minute. Mike Greenwood, would you please, Mike, mute your mic?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
City employees would still be able to have a health HRA card that the city provides. It would not. We would still provide employees with an HRA card. They would simply, choose to get health insurance with a spouse or with their on a family plan, and we would pay them $2 extra an hour in doing so. The reason it has to be an hourly rate is to comply with FLSA laws. If you give them just a stipend, then it doesn't go into overtime and stuff like that, and you could get into problems. So I've looked into it. This is a buyout form that I got from VLCT and changed a little bit, tweaked it to make it fit us.
So Len, I think this is a no-brainer. Health insurance, providing health insurance for our employees is probably the major cost driver that we have no control over. We're basically held hostage. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with a whole other discussion about problems with how we pay for healthcare in the United States, but we can get out of this for another $2 an hour. It's a no-brainer.
So Daniel, just one quick question. Is there a reason why we're only doing the Platinum healthcare? Is there an option for other plans, or is that all that the city offers?
That's what the city offers.
Okay. Is it possible to have a structure to let people choose a less expensive healthcare plan and therefore making it cheaper for the city to contribute our portion?
Yeah, well, up until January, we paid 100%. So the city changed their policy in January, so it's 80-20 now. So I guess.
Yeah, no. I get that, but anywhere else I've worked, you opt into you have different levels of coverage that you can choose depending on what suits your needs the best. And it doesn't always mean that you have to choose the cream of the crop. I mean.
Yeah, I can look into that.
Usually there's bronze, silver, and platinum, and gold, and whatever. So if there's options for different levels of coverage, and that could be cheaper also. I mean, I don't think this opt-out $2 an hour plan is a bad idea. I just would urge you to explore other options for healthcare coverage as well to see if there's cheaper options for people that don't necessarily need the platinum coverage.
Sure, and that's an interesting idea. And I don't think that the cities had that discussion because they were contributing 100% up until recently. So I'll look into that.
Yeah, and the 20% match only applies to new hires as of January. So we're still left with quite a few people that we pay 100% for. So
yeah.
Is there any reason that the 100% can't be changed?
It could, if somebody wants to run that up the flagpole. That's a tough one, I think.
That's a decision that was made in the past so that we could retain our employees in lieu of higher salaries. So that's why we went with 100%.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
But this payment in lieu, I mean, it doesn't affect anyone's existing coverage. I mean, that's an elected, decision that an employee could make if they can get it elsewhere. they'd make more
Well,
money.
right. I mean, I think there's also potential for cost savings if your 80% contribution for somebody's healthcare coverage is for like a bronze package versus a platinum package. That's the
Yeah.
only reason I bring it up, that it might be worth looking into. But
I'll-
otherwise, I personally don't have a problem with the $2 an hour.
I'll look into that. Thank you.
I'm just reading the comments.
So why don't we call for a vote, Lynn?
Oh, Mel Hawley's got a question.
Mel, are you there?
Can you hear me, Lynn?
We can.
Okay, so first off, it's my understanding that the police officers that are in the union do not have a platinum plan. They have a different plan under their contract. The other thing is, I wonder whether or not this provision, if it was passed, would it require an amendment to the existing contract with the police union?
It might.
Yeah, it would. I don't think that the police, that would have to be a separate negotiation between myself and the police. I don't think they would be able to tap into this because it's separate.
So if that's the case, then I would suggest that the motion be very carefully written if you're considering taking action on that this evening.
Can I also make one other comment, that it's exceptionally rare and very generous for 100% of a healthcare cost to be covered by an employer. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing for the employees, but it might be something that needs to be looked at.
I'll withdraw my motion. I'll withdraw my motion and recommend that we instruct the city manager to communicate with our legal counsel relative to the impacts to the city on this matter.
I just want to reiterate something that someone already said. This was not done during any of our terms. Maybe David or Lowell been on the longest of anybody here. But it was a negotiated agreement, and Mel can probably tell me if I'm wrong. We did this in lieu of, there was a couple of years that we could not do pay raises. And of course, no one expected healthcare to balloon like it has. But just for history's sake, that's why we have this 100% plan. And the agreement was at the last year that we were going to allow anyone that was already on 100% to stay on 100%, but any new employee, no matter what position they came in, it would be at 80-20.
Do you know approximately how many employees are on 100%?
I don't know that. Maybe Daniel does.
Everyone except for me and Brittany.
Yeah, but how many people is that? 5, 10, 15, 20?
Like 15.
Okay. So, I mean, again, I would just, do we have that written into like terms of employment somewhere? Are there, I mean, I get that the union is a whole different ballgame, but like straight city employees, is there some sort of employment agreement that says that you're healthcare?
I believe it's in the personnel policy. Or so it's I believe it's in the personnel policy. And to speak to the police, I can negotiate with the police union and we can come to some sort of terms. So that's not out of the realm of possibility either. So
I would agree with David Austin that it would be a good idea to task you, Daniel, to explore options and talk with the city attorney about some sort of different way of approaching healthcare costs.
Yeah, along the line, David, would you restate your motion?
I withdrew it. I'm withdrawing it to allow Daniel I'm going to withdraw the motion so that it allows Daniel the opportunity to look at this.
Right, and discuss with the attorney, correct, David?
So yeah, it doesn't require I don't think that requires a motion. He can do that as part of his job.
Right,
He's just getting information. He does that every day, all day.
Right, and could you please, if appropriate, be specific about any kind of employment agreement or employment package that our city employees sign up to? that might deal with insurance, and then exploring any kind of insurance package that is offered to our city employees as a way to explore cost savings.
Yeah, I'll look into that.
Thank you.
Any other comments from our council? All right, so we're going to table this for now, and we're going to move on. The approval of the listers, errors, and omissions.
So the listers met, we had 2 omissions to the grand list, change of assessments. And so the listers met and signed off on these 2 changes. So now it just needs council approval.
So moved.
There was
Forgive me, I don't understand what I'm looking at. Could you just give me a little bit of background? It was omitted in what sense? It just wasn't put on the grand list?
Yeah, it missed the grand list for an error on the city's part. But I
We
think
definitely want to have this done.
I think one of the so these are 2 utility companies, and so obviously we don't, even if we hired an assessor, they wouldn't know where to start with them. They hire their own assessors and they provide us with change in assessments every year. And I think one of them was mailed and not received or something back in March or something along those lines.
Thank you. Second, please.
Any other discussion? Any questions? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any nays?
Aye.
And any abstentions? Okay, I don't see Ian, but I'm assuming that he voted. Ian, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. And you voted yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to confirm. Okay. Daniel, do you have anything to add in the manager's report?
Well, did you guys have any questions for me for the finance report? I am planning, just so you guys know, of putting together a budget amendment because a lot of things have changed, like the pool. We kind of put together a placeholder type budget. I'd like to do a budget amendment for that, and we've gotten certain contracts like from Job Corps that that came after the budget was adopted. The truck that we just purchased, et cetera. I'd like to do a budget amendment down the road, which I don't know if the city has done before, but I'm going to be working on that. But is there any questions relative to my finance report?
Look good.
Good job as always.
And I just want to, we talked about healthcare. So I budgeted, this chart represents what I budgeted for healthcare increases, 20% increase, because it increased, I think, 10% the year before when COVID hit. So I anticipated a huge increase in healthcare costs. And the rates go up January 1st. We just got notified that the rates are actually only going to go up 4%. So because I budgeted 20% and because they actually only are going to go up 4%, that represents $24,000 in flexibility within the budget, which again allows me to, maneuver do a budget amendment to get other things in the budget if we need that. So that's going to go into the budget amendment too. But basically, bottom line is the city is saving. I anticipated $24,000 higher than what we're going to be paying. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that for everybody to be a little cautious relative to amending the budget, specifically related to healthcare, because if you have an employee that is currently single, and then becomes married, they're eligible for a two-person plan, and the city would be responsible for that increase in premium. So I just want to throw out a caution that you can't at this point be counting that $24,000 savings as a given.
Yeah.
Would the same situation be present for the birth of a child? And then giving you a family plan?
Yeah. You're right. However, it's a good thing that it's only going up 4%. And so, yeah. But in any event, there are other things that should be changed in the budget. I'm going to be I'll keep you guys informed on what I put together before the meeting, before we move to adopt anything. So, but that's what I'll be working on. I just wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Any other questions about the budget? Do you have anything else in your manager report, Daniel, you'd like to speak about?
No, I think we covered a lot today.
Oh, yeah. My report's going to be very brief, and this is just to make everybody aware. Starting in November, I'm going to ask for all the committee reports, all the committee chairmen to give reports at each one of the meetings. So we should have everybody be prepared to give us an update of what your committee's doing. So whether you're recreation or basin or whatever you are, we're going to try to keep everybody updated on what these committees are doing. We sort of lost track of stuff when we haven't had any meetings. So just be aware of that. I need a motion to go into executive session, and we will be coming back out of executive session if we do have a motion, and we will come back on live to make any motions or any discussions so you know what's going on. So, Daniel, I don't know how we will notify everybody of that. Is there a way that we can do that?
I don't know. No. People can wait in the waiting room.
Okay.
Yeah, and there has to be you got to state a reason for going into executive session.
Well, I was hoping that we're going in for a personnel issue, and I looked for a motion, but let's say it's 7:30 right now, and we'll try to be back at 8 o'clock.
Excuse me, could I ask a question before you go in, please?
Yes, Andy.
Is it okay?
We've lost you. There you go.
Okay, thank you. I'm gonna log off before you go in. I'll follow up tomorrow with executive session. I really wasn't clear on the resolution to the sidewalk issue. I know Councilor Dickey made a suggestion that you would come back at the next meeting with presentations and estimates. Is that where things were left? Maybe you or Daniel, Madam Mayor, could clarify.
Yes, we're going to wait till our next meeting. Yeah, we're going to have more information at our next meeting.
Specifically, can you say what more information you're looking at, please? You're looking to get.
We're going to get Jimmy Laro back together and get some more information about the project itself. That's my understanding. Is that correct, Daniel?
Get a more apples to apples comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, specific.
So that's specifically the goal. I was interested to know that one of the things in the chat was that Adam Luigi mentioned that an estimate would set the cost of the final project, which, I mean, do you have another estimate besides Jim's anywhere for the project?
That's what we're going to work on.
Yeah, that's part of what we're going to do. See if there's any other way to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So,
Mel's hand is raised.
Okay.
Mel.
Mel, you're muted. Mel? Did you just raise your hand by mistake?
I'm sorry
Oh, there
about
you go. Yeah, you got it.
the 1 VSA section 313 outlines the specifics relative to going into executive session. I just want to make sure that the motion complies with the law.
We don't have a motion yet. I'm waiting for someone to be brave.
Can I also just make a comment that as in all of my years of being on boards and chairs, it is very unusual to have an executive session that is sprung at the last minute and adding it to an agenda. It really needs to be a very important topic for very specific reasons, and that is usually given ahead of time so that the members can prepare for executive session. It's really not something you just throw in there lightly at the last minute. And I just wanted to voice that open meeting laws are pretty clear about this, and it feels like we're not quite doing what we should.
This came about today. It's immediate need. It is about a personnel matter here in the city. We didn't add it until later this afternoon because it didn't, I wasn't aware of it until 2 o'clock this afternoon. I promise you we'll come out. We will make you aware of the situation after the council's had a time to hear the issue. I promise. And if I could have a motion to go into executive session now, we'll try to be out by 8 o'clock. Do you have a second?
Second.
Is that Lowell? Okay.
Yes.
We'll be back at 8 o'clock. We're just going to recess this meeting for a half an hour. See you all back here in a half an hour.
I think you have to vote on that motion.
Do you have to?
Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do that. I apologize. All those in favor say aye.
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 Again, I can't see everyone. Is there any nays? Any abstention? We're going into executive session.
Abstain.
Excuse me?
I abstain.
Okay, thank you. One abstention. Ian. We'll be back in a little bit.